You know, deep inside every single one of your cells, there's a clock ticking. It doesn't keep track of seconds or minutes. No, it measures the vast, silent rhythm of our planet's rotation. This is a story that's literally written into our DNA, an ancient legacy from a time when survival itself hinged on the perfect timing of when we slept and when we were awake. So today, we're going to peel back the layers of this incredible and ancient mechanism.
It's a question we've all asked or been asked, right? Do you just spring out of bed at dawn, full of energy, totally ready to take on the day, or do you really only find your focus and your drive long after the sun has gone down? We tend to think of this as just a simple habit, a matter of personal choice or discipline, but what if it's something much, much deeper than that?
Because, as it turns out, this isn't really about choice at all. Your tendency to be a lark or an owl is actually a fundamental biological trait. It's an innate predisposition, and it's called a chronotype. It's this powerful rhythm that governs almost everything in your body, from when you get hungry to your absolute peak cognitive performance.
So how does this whole internal clock thing really work? Well, in this explainer, we're going to go on a journey. We'll start with the master conductor in your brain, then go all the way down to the very genes that write the program. We'll uncover a fascinating, ancient, evolutionary reason for all this diversity, and then we'll see what happens when our ancient biology crashes into the demands of the modern world. Okay, let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. We need to get the core concept down. We're going to move beyond the simple terms like lark and owl and get into the real science that controls our internal timing.
So, chronotype, that's the scientific term we'll be using, and it's about so much more than just sleep. Think of it as your body's master schedule. It's what dictates your appetite, your core body temperature, even the best time for you to work out to get the best results. It's the hidden conductor behind why you feel laser-focused at certain times and just completely wiped out at others.
But where does this rhythm even come from? What's the biological metronome setting the pace for your entire body? Well, to find that answer, we have to take a trip deep inside the brain.
The command center is located in a small, evolutionarily ancient area called the hypothalamus. It sits right at the base of your brain, and it controls so many of our most basic functions, things like hunger, thirst, body temperature, and, critically, our 24-hour cycles. This is the master coordinator.
And tucked away inside the hypothalamus is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. Now, this tiny, paired-up cluster of about 20,000 nerve cells, that is your body's master clock. It's the conductor of the entire circadian orchestra, sending out signals that make sure all the different systems in your body, from your liver to your lungs, are all playing in perfect time.
So how does this master clock stay in sync with the 24-hour day? Well, it uses external cues. The scientific term is Zeitgebers, which is just German for time givers. And the most powerful Zeitgeber of all is light. When light enters your eyes, it's picked up by a special class of cells that don't even help you see images. Their only job is to detect how bright it is and send a direct signal straight to the SCN. And when that morning light hits, the SCN tells another part of the brain, the pineal gland, to stop making the hormone melatonin. Shutting down that sleep hormone is the key signal that tells your entire body, hey, the day has officially begun.
Okay, to really get sleep, you have to understand it's a tale of two different systems working together. First, you've got process C. That's the circadian rhythm we've been talking about, the one run by your SCN. It's like a wave that builds all day, pushing you to stay awake. But at the same time, you have process S, your sleep pressure. From the moment you wake up, a chemical called adenosine starts building up in your brain. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine you have, and the sleepier you feel. But feeling drowsy isn't just about that pressure being high. It's all about timing. Your circadian drive, process C, has to start dipping at night. That opens up a sleep gate, which finally allows all that built-up pressure from process S to take over and make you feel sleepy.
And not all light is created equal. Those special cells in your eyes are extremely sensitive to short wavelength blue light. This chart here shows data from a study where people were exposed to different kinds of light at night. After 2 hours, the folks under red light had their melatonin levels bounce back up to 26 picograms per milliliter. But look at the people under blue light, their melatonin was still slammed down at just 7.5. This is exactly why looking at your phone or laptop late at night messes with your sleep. You are literally sending a powerful, hey, it's daytime signal straight to your brain's master clock.
So, we've seen the hardware, that SCN in the brain. But what about the software? What's the fundamental code that programs this clock to run early, late, or somewhere in the middle? Well, the answer is in our genes.
Okay, so the molecular clock inside every single one of your cells runs on this really elegant principle, a negative feedback loop.
Let's break that down. You have proteins from genes called clock and BMAL1 that team up. This team then turns on other genes, including one called CRY. The cell starts making a bunch of this CRY protein. But as the CRY protein builds up, it actually goes back and shuts down the original clock BMAL1 team, basically turning itself off. Then, over a few hours, the CRY protein fades away, the switch is released, and the whole cycle starts all over again, taking, you guessed it, roughly 24 hours.
Now here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. Scientists have found a specific mutation in that CRY1 gene. This tiny little change in the genetic code leads to a slightly different version of the CRY1 protein. And this new version is a much more powerful inhibitor. It's way better at shutting down that initial clock BMA1 switch.
So what's the big deal? Well, because this mutant CRY1 protein is so good at its job, it holds that off switch down for a longer period of time. This literally stretches out the entire 24-hour cycle. A delay of just a few minutes in each cell, every single day, adds up and cascades all the way to the master clock in the SCN. And this pushes your whole body's schedule, your peak alertness, your temperature, your melatonin release, later into the day. This isn't just a habit, it's a direct genetic cause for what's known as delayed sleep phase disorder, the clinical term for an extreme night owl.
But this genetic variation, it brings up a huge question. If it can cause such a major misalignment with the sun, why does it even still exist in the human population? Why haven't we all just evolved to be perfect morning larks? The answer might be hidden deep in our ancestral past, back in a time when falling asleep was the most dangerous thing you could do.
It's called the sentinel hypothesis, and the theory goes like this. For a group of people sleeping in a dangerous place, having everyone in a deep sleep at the exact same time would be a recipe for disaster. Chronotype variation fixes this by making sure some people are genetically programmed to go to bed early and wake up early, while others are programmed to stay up late and wake up late. The group accidentally creates a continuous 24/7 watch.
For decades, this was just a really compelling theory. But to test it in actual humans, researchers needed to find a group of people living kind of like our ancestors did. No electricity, no locked doors, no rigid schedules. And they found them in the Hadza people of Tanzania, who are a modern hunter-gatherer society. So the scientists gave them all wrist-worn activity monitors and just tracked their sleep patterns for 20 straight days.
The first result was just astounding. The data showed that for 99.8% of the entire group's collective sleep time, that's from the minute the first person fell asleep to the minute the last person woke up, at least one person was awake or in a very light sleep. The community's watch was almost never, ever down.
And this next number is the most staggering part of the whole study. Over the entire 20-day period, the total amount of time that every single person in the group was sound asleep at the exact same time was just 18 minutes. For hundreds and hundreds of hours through the night, someone was always awake, acting as an unintentional lookout.
So the study found that this wasn't random at all. It was driven by different chronotypes, which tended to line up with age. Older members were the larks, and younger ones were the owls. This means our varied sleep clocks are not a modern defect. They're a feature. A finely tuned legacy of natural selection that literally kept our ancestors alive through the long, dark night. That ancient survival strategy, however, is now facing a brand new problem: the modern world. Our biology, which was perfected for millennia out in the wild, now finds itself in a direct fight with the rigid schedules of our 9-to-5 society.
And this conflict actually has a name: social jet lag. It's the stress that a night owl feels when their body wants to sleep from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m., but they're forced awake by an alarm clock at 7 a.m. for work. They are constantly living out of sync, racking up a sleep debt all week, and then trying, and usually failing, to catch up on the weekends.
This chronic misalignment has very real consequences. Lots of studies show that night owls who are forced to live against their internal clock have higher risks for things like type 2 diabetes and depression. But, and this is what's really interesting, it's not a one-sided story. Other studies have found that when they're allowed to live on their own schedule, night owls can actually outperform larks on certain cognitive tests, especially from memory and processing speed. They aren't less capable, their peak just arrives at a different time of day.
All of this brings us to a really crucial question. If a huge chunk of the population is genetically hardwired to be night owls, and they have these unique cognitive strengths, is a one-size-fits-all 9-to-5 schedule really the best way to do things? Or are we just failing to accommodate a fundamental part of our own biological diversity?
All right, so let's just calmly recap what we've learned here. Your chronotype is a deeply ingrained biological rhythm, not some lifestyle choice. It's controlled by the SCN in your brain, which itself is programmed by a molecular clock written in your genes. This genetic diversity probably gave our ancestors a huge survival advantage, and today, that same diversity can create social jet lag, which is a clash between our ancient biology and our modern schedules.
Ultimately, that clock inside you is a part of your biological heritage. It's a rhythm that's been ticking for eons, long before alarm clocks and electric lights ever existed. Understanding that this timing is a fundamental piece of who you are, a piece of ancient programming, is really the first step. The challenge isn't to force an owl to become a lark, but to better understand our own internal timing, and, wherever we can, to design our lives to be more in sync with its ancient, powerful rhythm.